Welcome to Caching in the Northwest. You know, this is the official podcast of GeoWoodstock 18 right here in the Great Pacific Northwest. Each week, we're going to talk about caches and cachers from here and all around the globe. So while you're eating macaroni to celebrate, Marconi will be caching in the Northwest.
Let's celebrate Marconi
with your own pun.
I know.
Well, of course, that means it's time to bring in our puzzled primate. Some say he thinks hollandaise sauce is only for vacations. And others say in his spare time, he writes physics textbooks. All we know is he's called Land Monkey.
Dear physics textbook.
That's right.
I was thinking about you the other. Yeah, no, that's not what you meant.
It's a warm summer's evening in ancient Greece.
Good to be back here. Good to be back here. And it seems that Santa has joined us this evening, which is wonderful.
Hello. Oh, Merry Christmas to you.
And over
no more
on my
cash finds for land monkeys.
Hey, over on my my right, your left, perhaps. I'm not sure, but we have Cully Long.
That's me.
Hello, Cully.
Hi.
Nice to have you here joining us tonight. And I'm hoping we're going to talk about puzzle caching.
I hope so too, since that's the only thing I know about.
Surprise. You haven't been on this show before. All right. Well, we are going to get to that. We're looking forward to having a chat with you, Cully. Really appreciate you joining us tonight.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, before we get into too much more, we want to remind folks that we appreciate the support of our patrons who help to keep the podcast coming each and every week. And of course, thanks to Land Sharks, our corporate Denali level sponsor. And if you'd like to more know about this sporting show, click the Patreon link on the cachingNW.com a website.
Easy for you to say.
Not as easy
wasn't at all.
Look, is it?
No.
But you know what it's time for?
Nope.
Other than not being able to read well or making bad puns, it's time for the glow. Yes, that's our geocaching log of the week. So whether you read it or whether you wrote it, we want to hear about it because great logs simply make geocaching better. We really need you. Yeah, you driving the car. Go ahead, pull on over. People will understand. I don't care if you have to go across 3 lanes of traffic. Just pull over, send an email, or maybe a recording that you've done on your phone out in the field to feedback@cachingNW.com. Call into 253-693-TFTC or use the voicemail too on the website. I've given you so many options, but we need to see your glow. How you glow.
The glow. Yes, and make sure you do pull over before you send in that glow. Don't glow and drive.
Oh, no.
This week's glow is brought to us via GSM ×2. It says, I'm submitting this on behalf of Bellagio. Now that says pronounced Bellagio, but it's spelled Bella. How about that? Yeah. She describes how she was able to gain admission into a sanctuary where dogs are strictly prohibited. He says, I think it is glow worthy. Today I joined Daddy, GSM ×2, and flew by you as we drove down Pacific Coast Highway, gathering geocaches to unlock the vault for the mystery of the museum promotion. UDAC's Virtual 2.0 Santa Ynez Lake Shrine, that's GC88ZW6, was our target geocache. Daddy was fully aware that as a meditation garden, Santa Ynez Lake Shrine's pet policy is ADA-trained service animals only. No pets or therapy animals. Daddy brought me along relying on his karma to provide either overcast skies or a shady parking spot so I could rest safely and comfortably in the car while they got the geocache. The CEO had already said I could claim the find given the circumstances. Daddy's karma sucked. Sunny skies and no available shady parking spaces eliminated the option of leaving me in the car. Flew by you suggested that perhaps the guard at the gate would allow Daddy to put me in my crate in the shade next to the guard stand for about half an hour while they gathered the information to be able to claim the find. Fortunately, my karma and indisputable cuteness were working for me today. Daddy carried me, pled his case to the guard. The guard responded, as long as you carry your dog at all times, you can take her in. We later learned that the guard at the gate was a brand new volunteer who, after granting us permission, used his radio to inquire, is it okay to let dogs in if their owners hold them at all times? He was told, no, only trained service dogs are allowed, but since you've given permission, we'll not take it away. Don't do it again. Oops. So that's the story on how I was able to be carried around the Lake Shrine Meditation Garden for about an hour to legitimately claim my find without relying on the CO to make an exception given the circumstances. This is a beautiful area and a great use of a reward virtual 2.0. UDAC really did a fabulous job with it.
Nice. I like those reward virtuals.
Yeah.
I think they're really done quite well.
Yeah,
And it's always nice to get the full explanation that this was spoken from a dog and not a child that was going to be left in a crate or a car. Lest you were concerned and didn't catch that. Yes.
Okay.
absolutely. Hey, Cully, have you done any of the new reward virtuals?
I have. I actually was awarded one of them, so I placed one. And you may or may not know, I'm working on doing a fizzy grid for each major cache type.
Oh.
And so, of course, prior to the new virtuals, it was impossible to do that with virtuals. It is now possible. So I've been keeping an eye on the new publications to see what becomes convenient to fill those grid spots.
Very
nice.
cool.
A fizzy grid for each type. Wow.
Yes.
That's quite the challenge.
I've completed puzzle and traditional. I'm well in the way with multi. The others, we'll see. They'll take a little longer.
Wow. All right.
I can imagine, but wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. Well, speaking of puzzles, folks, if you have questions for Cully during the show, use #puzzles so we don't miss your question in the chat.
Certainly, and we have our chat Lackey with us tonight to help us so we don't miss anything. Thank you, chat Lackey.
You're the best, chat Lackey.
I would don my cap, or tip my cap to you, but there's headphones involved and it's messy.
Yeah, it's complicated.
It's not you, it's him.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, did you see the new blog from geocaching.com? The new blog post that talks about all the souvenir moments available in 2020? We're not even there yet.
Wow.
And we know what's going to happen.
I haven't seen it yet. Tell me.
Pretend we haven't. Yes.
Okay. Well, we're starting off 2020 with the January 1st. Hello, 2020. And then we're moving to Leap Day. Did I say frog? Oops.
You did.
Frog Day. February 29th. Wow. We have our Cash In, Trash Out Season 1. That's March 1st through May 31st. We wondered, we puzzled if there was going to be a Blue Switch Day. The big switch, May 2nd. They're going to celebrate that. Find a geocache on that day. Then we have these community celebration events. Large time frame, May 2nd through December 31st, 2020. I haven't. Has anybody received word that they've won one yet? Or are those not? I think those are going to be later in 2020.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to release that right away.
Yeah. And then, of course, we have International Geocaching Day, Saturday, August 15th.
There's something else going on that day. I can't remember what it is.
Huh,
it's the Ides of August.
I don't think anything.
No? Okay, never mind.
Bryling says no one gets an announcement until next year.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
There is Cash In, Trash Out Season 2, September 1st through November 30th. Land Monkey, are you sitting down for this one?
Well, before I do, we just skipped right to September from mid-August. Don't forget that if you come up to Abbotsford on August 22nd, you can get a souvenir.
Oh.
You'll get your GeoWoodstock event souvenir.
That's what's
Mega
going
event,
on.
so you get a souvenir.
That's right. Now, that is to say, they will have their promotions. You know, like they've had Mystery at the Museum, Streak Week. Those are still going to happen in 2020, but the dates are being worked out. These
Well,
are the ones that they know of. They're, you know, they've got it fixed in stone.
That's right.
Etched in
They
stone.
never announce them until like shortly before, so that it can be a big surprise.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they should announce one the day it starts.
Oh,
Just
that would be super popular.
see what happens.
What could possibly go wrong?
Okay, let me get to Cash In, Trash Out,
Yeah.
season 2, September 1st through November 30th.
Right on.
And then International Earth Day, October 10th through October 11th, which is 2 days because of somebody.
Somebody's taking credit for that.
And then finally, you have your farewell 2020, welcome 2021, in December 31st. And as said in the chat, there will be no GIF in 2020. There's just too many other things going on.
So that's just the ones you announced is a minimum of what, 11 souvenirs right there.
I believe so.
If you go to multiple community celebration events, you don't get extra souvenirs for them. I think you just get the one.
Well, they're icons.
Right, but is there not
I-
also a souvenir for having attended like the first?
Well, you know that you're right. They mentioned it here, so yes. Entering into 20 years of geocaching, we want to celebrate what's most important, the community creating the game. These events will enable cachers around the world to commemorate the 20th anniversary of geocaching with a new icon and souvenir.
Yeah, so I'd imagine you get one souvenir for the first one, and then you just start getting the icon count go up.
Mm-hmm.
There you go, Cully. You gotta fill a fizzy grid with, with those events.
I don't know if I'll have time for that one, but I am curious to know if they're going to give away to trigger that lost and found event attribute, because that's the only attribute, positive or negative, that I don't have.
Good point.
Attribute. Oh, interesting.
Because there was an attribute for the lost and found events.
Yes. I wonder if that's, the lost and found icons are becoming the, not the
Community celebration.
No, the other one. The lost and found icons. Or no, sorry, you're right. The lost and found icons are becoming community celebration. It's the 10-year event that's becoming every so often.
Every 10 years.
I think maybe every 5, they're going to throw a big party. That's what they're talking. So
I'm good with that.
Parties.
All right. Well, that's a lot of souvenirs. It's a lot of news. In our GeoWoodstock news segment, we have to share that we have not only passed 2,000 will attends, but we've passed 2020 will attends.
Woohoo!
So that's kind of fun because, it's in 2020.
So that means people can come in 2021?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Just make your reservation.
It's like visiting an Olympic site after the Olympics. You still go and see it.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see the aftermath. Yeah. Let's see if Abbotsford is still standing.
I think it will be.
It will be. I'm excited for this. I'm really hoping that people get up here and just really enjoy our community. It's a beautiful area, and I think there's going to be a lot of people who just get to see parts of British Columbia they've never seen before. It'll be great.
Exactly.
Anyways, that's our GeoWoodstock news for now.
Well, thank you for that. Now,
you're welcome.
Of most importance, we have a guest tonight. Cully Long, author of How to Puzzle Cache. Now, Cully, not all of our listeners may be familiar with you, so let's start with some introductions. Could you tell us where you call home? Obviously in the room behind you, but I mean, kind of like city space. Maybe your favorite geocache type and what you consider your biggest geocaching achievement, which we may have heard.
Most recently, I'm living in Ogden, Utah, which is just north of Salt Lake City. I just moved here in July I took a job at a university here. So I've been here since July. But prior to that, I was in New York City for the last 12 years. So most of my caching has been done in the New York City regional area there. So that's where I think most people would associate me with. I'm still splitting time between here and there. My partner is staying in New York City for now. So summers and holidays, I'll be a New Yorker again. But for the school years, I'll be a Utahn, as they refer to themselves.
Utah.
Utah.
Yes.
How are you enjoying Utah?
It's great. I actually have been to Utah quite a bit. My partner and I have vacationed in the southern part of Utah down by the big national parks every year for the past 5 years. So when this job came up, it seemed like a natural fit for me. So we came out. And you might be familiar, besides the puzzle caching book, I also have a geocaching novel out in the world called The Lost Frenchman that is actually set in Utah.
Oh,
I don't think I was familiar with that. That's interesting.
So I have a long-running Utah connection even before I got here.
nice.
Very
And it
cool.
was more than the Utah Geo Tour that attracted you there, apparently.
It was, yeah. Utah is a lovely place. You know, it's great geology, really beautiful. You know, lots of very different types of places to hike and that sort of thing. Where I'm at now is right by the Great Salt Lake, so the town is pretty flat. But you get to the edge of town and just like 90-degree turn up the side of a mountain that is right on the edge of town there. So it's an interesting place in the world.
Nice. Now, am I right in thinking Utah has the most national parks of any state?
I believe that's right. They have what they call the Big Five,
Okay.
which is Zion, Arches, Canyonlands,
And the other two.
and the other two, yeah.
Grand Escalante.
Bryce. Escalante is not a national park; it's a national monument.
Oh, okay.
And Capitol Reef. Capitol Reef is the other park. And then there's a whole bunch of national monuments as well. So pretty much everything south of Salt Lake City is parkland. It's just one big park, Wonderland down there.
Pretty cool.
That's cool. I need to get there. I really was going to go there for the Geo Tour. My wife was going to take a class in Las Vegas, and I was going to take the long way there, cut through Utah, and it didn't work out.
I managed to catch it just before it ended. So I had picked up a few when I was out here on various vacations. And then when I came out to do the job interview, I picked up a few more and picked up a few when I came out to apartment hunt. And so I managed to catch them all just before it ended. I'm hearing rumors that it's coming back, though. So
interesting.
Glad to hear that.
They are working on finding a new sponsor and trying to get it revived.
Awesome. So your favorite geocache type?
Well, that would be puzzles.
Okay. Didn't know if it was going to be a surprise answer. So
I do have an affinity for the puzzles. Yeah. I like a lot of the types. Because as I mentioned, I'm working through doing these fizzies for each major type. I get sort of fixated at looking at particular ones. One of the great things about coming here is they really seem to like letterboxes in this particular part of the world. And so there's a lot of really high terrain letterboxes here because they're like up on the top of the mountain, which is going to be great for getting those spots filled when I'm ready to get up there to do that. Some of them are some pretty lengthy hikes to get there, and the snow has already started. So I don't know if I'll do that this year, but it's coming. It's coming.
Nice. Very cool. So in case our listeners are unaware, and I think we've already talked about this, but you are the author of How to Puzzle Cache. And we're curious what, maybe it's simply your love of puzzles, but what inspired you to write the original book?
In New York City, we have a pretty big puzzle community. There were 5 or 6 of us that really sort of claimed, Central Park specifically, and a couple of other outlying areas that we were all just sort of placing puzzles and kind of challenging each other with these puzzles and that sort of thing. Not so much. I know that happens in a lot of communities, and sometimes it turns into a race to see who can write the hardest puzzle. For us, it was a little more about like seeing who could write the most interesting puzzle. Like it was a little more congenial, I guess. But beyond just like the 5 or 6 of us that were sort of competing and placing things for each other, there were a lot of people in the community that just weren't logging the fines on there. So we started doing some events where we were doing puzzle training and trying to get people a little more acclimated to what it takes to log some of these things. And after doing several of those, I just started thinking, I could write this stuff down and like actually get this into a wider audience and into a wider set of hands. It is my favorite type. So the more people place, the better it is for me. And the better quality of stuff that gets placed, the better that is for me. So that was another part of the mission, was to sort of try and maybe model best practices a little bit in the writing to sort of give you some ideas about placement and that sort of stuff as well. So I wrote it the original 4 years ago, and it's been more well received and way more popular than I ever imagined. And I just felt like it was time to do an update and get it refreshed a little bit.
Excellent. Well, and before we jump to that, I see that Highlands guy said he just bought a copy of your book on the Black Friday sale at the Landshark store, and says lots of great info and lots to read.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Highlands guy.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for writing the book, because I love puzzles and I'm anxious to read more about how to do them and putting all the information together. And in the spirit of cache ownership and cache maintaining your caches, you, as you mentioned, updated, and there's now a second edition of the book. Are there a lot of differences? If I owned the first, do I need to go out and buy the second?
So the biggest thing was, there in the 4 years since I wrote the original, there have been a lot of changes at the geocaching.com website. Like when I originally wrote it, corrected coordinates didn't move on the map. There were no like internal in-house geocheckers. All of that sort of stuff was still being formed there. So it's been a little bit out of date in terms of how that sort of information has been handled in the book. So that was really my biggest impetus to get in and do an update, was to sort of catch up on that sort of information. The app has had a lot of changes. I had to go in literally like 2 weeks before I was ready to press go and send out this newest edition. They changed the app yet again as to exactly how to enter the updated coordinates. So I had to go back in and update that part one more time before I put it out into the world. So that was the biggest thing, was keeping track of that. But I figured since I was in there, I might as well update a few other things, because there have been some other changes that have happened. I don't think I mentioned what 3 words in the original edition. The Google Plus coordinates weren't available then. So I've added things like that, like some of the more recent additions to the puzzle writers arsenal that have come out. I updated some of the code charts and some of the cipher chapters with some new things that I've encountered in the past couple of years. And I also wrote one brand new chapter that was not in the original one. I've been really lucky in the past 4 years since I wrote it that I've been invited to a lot of events, and either just as a vendor or as a speaker. I give a couple of like how-to seminars and that sort of thing that I've done. I've actually done it in 4 countries now. So I've done events in the US, a couple events in Canada, one in New Zealand and one in Australia, as a guest speaker. And one of the things that I get asked about a lot is story puzzles, which I didn't write in the original one. So there's a whole new chapter that deals specifically with the story puzzles that are in there.
Man A and Man B are in a boat.
I'm sorry?
Man A and Man B are in a boat.
Sort of like that. Yeah, it's a little bit like a word problem. Yeah. But
2 trains leave a station at the same
right.
time. One is heading.
I found that one.
Oh, did you?
Cool. Yeah, Promontory Point's not far from there.
Nope.
So we did far more than just update the cover picture and write edition 2 on a book. You've been really busy.
Yes. And also in the spirit of supporting the geocaching community, there is the full edition that is now available through my website and through several of the geocaching retailers. I think Landsharks has already ordered the updated edition. But I've also released what I'm calling the update supplement, which will be a smaller edition that is only the changed pages. So if you've already purchased the original, but you want that new chapter, I've also added, at the end of each of the chapters in the original, I have a practice puzzle so that you can sort of put the skills that you've learned to use. And now that I've gone through and done the edition, each chapter has 2 practice puzzles at the end. So if you want the new puzzles, the new chapter, the new information, but you don't want to buy the whole book, you can just get the supplement, which will give you those updates without having to do the whole thing again.
Nice.
A great idea.
Well, we see Starcasher said a couple of days ago, I received my How to Puzzle Cache Update Supplement book from Lulu. So far, I've read the Tell Me a Story section. Got an autographed spiral bound at GeoWoodstock 13.
Nice to meet you, Jim.
There you go. So nice. We have another question from UDAC that says, was the puzzle book the first book you published? What did you learn about the writing, editing, and publishing process?
It was the first, and I've done a couple of other books since then. I mentioned the novel that I've written, and I have a coloring book that a geocaching specific coloring book that I worked on. And actually, now that I'm saying this, I'm realizing this is a lie. I have published another book before. So even before I was involved in geocaching, I used to do sketches, keep a sketchbook that I sketched on the subway in New York City. Like I had about a 20-minute commute every day, and that was just about the perfect amount of time to do a sketch. And so I was keeping this sort of sketch diary, and it got pretty popular online. I was keeping a blog of all the sketch diary posts and that sort of thing. And I released a book of the subway sketches. I had forgotten that I published that.
That's awesome.
Breaking news right here.
That's right.
Yeah, only about, I think I released that in like 2005. So only about 14 years later. But it has been an interesting, because I'm self-publishing and not going through any sort of publication house or anything. It's pretty much a one-man show. I have hired some editors to come through and look at things, but as much as I have had other people look at it, there are mistakes that have crept in and things that I've corrected over the years of just like, it seems like every time I pick up a copy of it, I see another typo or another like little thing that's just slightly out of place or something that I want to fix. But it's a fascinating process, but these days it's so easy to do. Like with Lulu and the creative stuff at Amazon, basically, if you've got Microsoft Word, you can publish a book.
Mhm.
Like there's really no barriers anymore. And the great thing about publishing with Lulu and the Amazon Create Space is I don't have 500 copies of this sitting in my garage. You know, they're only printed as they get ordered. So, you know, there's no extra copies sitting around.
I thought that was the big benefit of being an author, is having, you know, an entire car stall filled with books.
I mean, as much as I live in Utah now, I am still a New Yorker at heart. So I try to keep the amount of things in my life to a minimum because, you know, 12 years of living in a New York City apartment teaches you how to live without a lot of things.
I was going to say, it sounds like somebody lives in a 4-story walk-up or something.
Yeah, 5-story, but yeah.
5 stories? Okay.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Nice. Well, we have one more question or statement from Dora Mora that says, I'll have to get the supplement. I love the book itself, and it has helped me a lot to solve a lot of puzzle caches. So
Great.
That's always so awesome to hear. You know, just I spent about a year and a half writing before I sent this out to be published the first time. And there were days where, you know, like I said, this has sold a lot more than I ever expected and become a lot more well received than I ever expected. So, you know, hearing from people who appreciate the work that I put into it, and more importantly, that it has actually helped get a couple of extra smileys on the list, always makes me feel great, because it's, you know, that was the whole point, was to get more people out, get a little more attention to this cache type, and get more people comfortable with doing these solves and getting out into the world and finding some things that you might not have been able to find before.
right. So I think we've answered this, but is this book more of a manual for creating caches or for solving them?
It does not directly have any information about placing. This was just for the solver. I have been told that a lot of people have used some of the information that is in there as sort of guidelines to help place. And especially, I talk a lot in there about, as a finder, sort of how to find the hints on a page, or like the places you can look for extra information and hints and stuff like that. And I have had people tell me that that has helped them place caches because they understood a little better how to write hints, or understood some of the extra places where they could put information, you know, like the source code, or, you know, a lot of people don't realize that you can change the placement date and your name, right? Mm-hmm. And both of those are places that you could potentially put a hint if you have something that is possible to use that way. So some people have taken the information and used it to help with placement, but there was nothing that directly was there for that. I do have an outline that I've been working on from that side, but that's down the road.
Oh, I'll have to have you come back and talk about that someday.
Someday.
All right. Well, you mentioned getting feedback even tonight from Dora Mora, how much she loves your book. Have you gotten any great stories from people that have read your book, feedback on how it helped them specifically? Any stories you can share with us?
One of the more interesting things that has happened is, so my family, my sister and my mom are also both geocachers. And they live in South Carolina, and they are constantly like sending me puzzles for help, and, you know, like, can you solve this one for us, or can you put us on the right road for this one, that sort of thing. And they sent me a puzzle one day, and I kind of looked at it and I was like, this is really familiar. Wait a minute. This is the solve it yourself puzzle from the end of chapter 4. Like, what? So I like started looking at this guy's stuff, and he had basically taken most of the solve it yourself puzzles and just put them out into the world in South Carolina. So I had the opportunity for the first time ever to go and log a puzzle that I wrote, essentially.
That's pretty cool.
Because you don't really ever get that opportunity. And it turns out that he was sort of having a little back and forth with another puzzle writer in town, and they were just sort of taking turns publishing things from out of the book and changing them for the local coordinates that were down there. So
Sincerest form of flattery, I guess.
Yeah, it was fun for me.
That's awesome. So we've talked a little bit about what makes this edition, the second edition, different than the first, and it sounds like there's a lot of quality stuff in there that really makes it a worthwhile, let's call it an upgrade. What would be the most helpful things for geocachers to know about this edition? You've already talked about what's in it, but maybe about how to get it and how it differs. Well, not differs. What's the word I'm looking for? So if you already have the first edition, you mentioned that there's like an upgrade component. Like, how does that work?
A supplement.
A supplement.
The supplement, yeah. So the like I said, the two biggest changes were the new chapter, and I also have added new puzzles. Basically, every chapter, I rewrote the end of chapter puzzles and added a second one. There are a couple that are still left over from the original book, but over the years of feedback from that, I've written them in a way that is a little more helpful for the training, I think. So the other thing that I added, it's kind of frustrated some people I get a lot of emails about this, that I don't give away the answers in the book. There is no answer key. And a lot of people are, wonder why I did that. But my response is always, well, there's no answer in the real world. You have to solve it to figure it out. And I find, even for myself, a lot of times, if I know the answer is available, I will look there first. I might spend 10 minutes sort of poking at it, but the answer's right there. I'll just flip over and figure out what the answer is. So I left the answers out. But in the new edition, I have added a hint system. So each of the end of chapter puzzles now has 5 hints that will range from in level of revelation, right? The level of the amount of stuff that it will reveal about the puzzle. So the first one I called the tap. It's just a slight nudge to get you started, and it builds up from there until you get to the level 5 hint, which is like the nuclear level hint that is basically a spoiler that will solve it for you. So each of the puzzles has a series of numbers at the bottom, and there's an appendix at the back. So that chapter 4 puzzle, the first hint is number 42. You just flip to the back, look at number 42, and you can read the hint. So the first 3 level hints, the easy ones, are in clear text. You can just read them. But the 2, like the spoiler hints, are in Rot 13. So if you really want those, you actually have to decode them. Because unlike the website, you can't just click the button to decode it. You will have to transcribe it into a website to decode it for you.
You can tap. It won't do any good, but
yeah, you can tap all day. It won't do any.
I keep trying to pinch and zoom things that way.
Those silly non-interactive pages.
I know.
They're coming someday. Someday everything will be, Harry Potter style and moving photos and everything. So I've added that as well. That's another big change from the original. So the supplement I'm keeping exclusive to Lulu. So I do my publication through lulu.com. You can just go there and search for my name. I'm the only Cully Long on there. So the great joys of having a unique name.
Mhm.
So the supplement is going to be exclusive through Lulu. The spiral bound edition and the regular square bound edition you can also get through Lulu, but several geocaching specific retailers already have them in stock. I've worked with several different retailers around the world to get those ordered and get those into stock from them. So if you want to go through a geocaching retailer, they probably already have it. It will eventually show up on Amazon. Amazon is slow. It usually takes about a month from publication. So probably around Christmas or around the first of the year, it will show up on Amazon. But the thing to keep in mind is that the spiral bound edition, Amazon won't sell it. They will only sell the square bound. So if you want the spiral bound, which is very popular, you either have to come to me or to a geocaching retailer.
Interesting.
Well, the spiral bound is very nice because you can leave, it opens up and will stay there. Where
Right.
The square bound, the pages could possibly flip on you.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to be able to open that up to a certain page, be able to, have it sit there and look at it, study it, trying to figure out this puzzle.
It's like a
Yeah, that's
workbook.
actually why I chose Lulu as the publication company that I use, because they were the only company that had that option.
Oh, interesting.
And it was important for me, especially for like the code charts and stuff. Having those to lay flat is a much easier way to look at them than in a regular book.
Nice. Well, Heather from Beaverton says, I have many puzzles around me. I'm not afraid of them, but I often don't know where to start. If there's hidden info in the metadata of a photo, I don't know how to see it on my phone. And, that brings us up to our next question. What do you find is the most commonly asked question about puzzle caching?
Well, where to start is a pretty common question. They do sort of, because the thing about puzzle caches is there's just so many types. There's such a variety of ways to do this. It's not like, like your regular Sunday newspaper, it's going to be the word jumble and the crossword puzzle and the Sudoku, and that's pretty much it, right? Like, you're going to get those three types of things. But geocaching puzzles are as varied as geocachers are, because you can write a puzzle about anything if you're creative enough. So there's just such a variety of things out there and so many different ways to do this that people just get lost in the way of doing, like, what am I supposed to look at first? Where am I supposed to go? This other one, gave me a photo to look at. There's no photo on this page. Now what? So getting comfortable with like the different types and like sort of the different stuff that you can look for is the first thing. And it sounds like she's well on her way. If she knows what metadata is, she's a couple of steps ahead of most people who are just starting into the puzzle caching world, because that's like a deep cut. I don't get to that until like, I think chapter 13 or 14. So that's down the line. I don't actually know of a way of doing it on a phone. There are puzzles in the world that you have to sit down at a desktop to look at to be able to solve. And I think if you're looking for metadata or that sort of stuff, you might just have to go to a desktop to do it. We've only very recently gotten the ability to look at source code on a phone. That was impossible when I wrote the book. And now there are websites that will do it for you, and the Cachely app actually has a way to go directly to the source code within the Cachely app now. So that's new to the puzzle world as well.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So speaking of some of these amazing options that there are in the puzzle caching world and how fast things are changing, we're curious where your ideas for the first and second editions had come from, and in particular, how did you decide what types or what puzzles to focus on?
Well, like I said, there are a lot of different puzzles types out there. And I tried to just sit down and pick about a dozen that I thought were the most common, or if they weren't common, at least would teach you something about how to look at stuff. For instance, I have an entire chapter on music puzzles, and there aren't a lot of music puzzles in the world. They're common in some areas, but I won't say it's the most common thing. But if you can figure out that way of looking at music and seeing how you can encode information within music, I felt like that it was like a good brain training thing to sort of take into other areas, right? Because it connects to ciphers, it connects to like computer language, it connects to like visual encoding. Like there's so many things that fall into how music is written. So, I chose that one basically as a way to branch off into other things. I always like to point out that, solving puzzles is just like finding caches. The first time you went out to find a cache, you sucked, right? Like you couldn't, it took you 20 minutes to find something that you would have found that today you would find in a minute and a half, right? Or, you may have DNF'd your first hide because it was under a lamppost, or it was a light switch magnetically on a wall. And that is not something that the average person out in the world would ever think of as a place to hide something or a way to hide something. But after you find 20 of those, you can automatically see, oh, hey, there's a light switch. I wonder if that pulls off, right? And puzzling is the same way. You develop what I call puzzle calluses. You develop these like little ways of seeing things and ways of understanding information that after you've done 10, 20, 30 puzzles that have the same sort of codes or the same sort of way of laying out information, it becomes pretty easy to then see that information somewhere else. So it's just a matter of like practicing and seeing things, and solving one type can help you see information in another type. And so you start to develop these new ways of thinking about things and these new connections for things. So some of it was about finding the most common stuff. Some of it was about finding things that I thought were good training to help you develop those puzzle calluses.
That is a very good analogy. I like that.
Yeah, that's great. Now, I love printed books. I really do. And this is great to have that spiral bound book laid out there. But like we mentioned, you can't click on it. I've been guilty of trying to pinch and zoom a printed photograph and it just doesn't work. Sometimes you just got to go online. Are there places online, a kind of an online community for readers of your book to share ideas, feedback, maybe a forum or something like that?
Not specifically for the book. I do have a Facebook page that's dedicated to the book where these days I'm mostly using it for news. I did for about a year do a weekly practice puzzle that was posted at the Facebook page and also at a website that's puzzlecashpractice.com. So if you're looking for more like low impact practice that you don't need to actually go out into the world to do, Puzzle Cache Practice has a year's worth of puzzles sitting there waiting that have not only the practice puzzle, but hints that will help you solve it, and the answers are published on there. So that exists. I just felt like there were a couple of other like pre-existing places where people talk about this that I didn't need to provide that. There's one or two geocache puzzle help groups on Facebook that I really enjoy being a part of. There's a couple that I don't particularly like because they steer more towards like the spoilers. They're not there to help you solve. They're just there to give you the answer if somebody happens to know it. But the there are a few that have a little more ethical view of that and are there just to kind of give people training and help them solve things. I think my favorite is Geocache Puzzle Help, I think is the name of it. Then there's also another group that I'm a member of, a little less active, but some good things do happen there. That's called the Geocache Creation Lab, where puzzle cache writers can post early versions of their puzzles, and some of us in the group will beta test it for you so that you can work out the kinks in the puzzle or get advice on how to hint something before it actually gets published out in the actual geocaching world. So I feel like those are, strong enough resources that I don't need to step in and provide that.
Yeah,
Sure.
I know where I'm going to be surfing on the bus next week.
Yeah.
There you
I
go.
thought you were going to start sketching on the bus.
Yeah.
Trying to keep up with Cully there.
I can give you some hints on that too.
Oh, okay.
Okay. What we want to know, is there a third edition in the planning?
So I kind of spoiled that a little bit. I have written an outline. It is just an outline at this point for a how to place puzzle caches that gets a little more into not only how to write them, but how to how to put a photo on a page, how to write your description and change the text in the description, and how to actually get things into that source code and that sort of stuff. So that's, again, probably a couple of years away. It took me a year and a half to write the first original edition. So it's probably going to be at least that for this other one, but it is in the works. I also have another geocaching related novel that's in the works that I've been sort of noodling at for about a year now, actually. So hopefully that one will be born at some point in the near future.
Nice.
That's
So there's always some pokers in the fire.
I know that feeling. That's awesome. Now, speaking of pokers in the fire, we've heard a rumor that there might be some sort of path tag contest going on. Our chat Lackey wants to know if he can win, but maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that.
You can win because there's not really a winner per se. So to kind of give back to the geocaching community that has been so good to me and bought copies of the book and come and talk to me at events and all of that sort of stuff, I have minted a limited edition path tag. It's a gold path tag that says How to Puzzle Cache Graduate on it. And I have a link up at my website, which is singleatombooks.com, that will take you to a Google form. So if you can answer a question about 10 of the puzzles in either the original book, the new book, or the update supplement, or any combination thereof. So you have to have solved the puzzles and looked at the final location for the puzzle on Google Earth or Google Street View, something like that. And there's like a little trivia question there. If you can answer 10 of those questions, I will send you a path tag.
Nice. That's awesome. What a great idea.
Like I said, it's been, at last time I checked, I've sold just over 20,000 copies of this book.
Wow.
So I owe the geocaching community a debt of gratitude, and this is the first way that I thought of that I could repay some of that.
That's really wonderful.
Congratulations on those kind of numbers of sales. But I have to say, I'm a little surprised by just the sheer number, but I'm also not surprised because I also have a copy and it is a fantastic resource. So congratulations. And as a member of the geocaching community, thank you for your work on it.
Honestly, I was surprised too. The stuff at Lulu doesn't make it easy to see whole numbers. They only show you monthly. And so I really sat down just before I released the update. I was like, I wonder how many. So like sat down, it took me like an hour and a half to sort through all of the different things and like do the math. And the more it kept growing, the more I was like, really? So it is a surprising number to me as well.
Nice. Well, we have some questions from our loyal listeners. We're going to start with Green Words that says, have you ever come across a puzzle that has stumped you?
Yes. So, like I said, one of the things that is both great and terrible about geocaching puzzles is that you can write just about anything and turn it into a puzzle. And a lot of times communities sort of build a specific puzzle type or a specific sort of thing that's interesting to that community that they'll build a lot of puzzles about. And I noticed that, places like San Francisco that have a lot of people that do computer coding and engineering and that sort of stuff, you get a lot of computer-based puzzles. I don't know anything about that. Like there are puzzles in San Francisco that basically you have to write a Python script in order to solve it. I don't write Python, so I'm never going to solve that without some help from somebody else. There are just some average everyday stuff. When I was coming to Ogden, I started looking around here to see, what kind of puzzles were there, what kind of things could I sort of pre-solve before I moved to town, that sort of thing. There is a puzzle right now about 3 miles west of me that has been sitting there since 2011. No one has solved it. No one has logged it. And I'm working so hard to be the person who finally can put a name on that log.
Well, it's kind of a lot of pressure on you, right? It's like,
I know.
Logs here. Someone's going to solve it now.
That's the hope. But yeah, it's eluded me so far, but I've only been here for 3 months. So, maybe someday.
Awesome. Well, speaking of being in Utah, which, is borderline being in the Northwest from our perspective, UDAC asks if you're planning to attend the 20th anniversary event and possibly even giving seminars on puzzle caching.
I do hope to be at the event. I also hope to be at GeoWoodstock. No one has officially asked me to do anything at those events yet. So I am open to the possibility, but I have not been officially invited to any of that sort of stuff yet. But I will be there as a personal attendee.
All right. Well, that may change shortly after this show. We'll see.
That you may regret that you've said anything. Because here's the monkey too.
Hey, the great thing about going and doing these events is it's all a tax write-off because I can.
There you go.
It helps me defray tax costs from the book.
Brilliant. We had another comment from Dora Mora. There we go. She said she's very thankful that you donated one of your books as a prize at one of our Metrovan geocaching summer games events. She notes that we've given other prizes or giving others as prizes at events, and the winners all are very excited to receive those books.
That is another great thing to hear. I do, I give a few away every year to various events and things to use as door prizes or as like signed editions to use for fundraisers for pre-events and that sort of stuff. So, like I said, I try my best to give back to the geocaching community, and that's another way that I can do that. So always happy to do that.
And that's how he keeps the stock in his garage low. Oh, let's see. We have another one from CRS 98 that says, I find that having a good set of tools to help solve puzzles is really helpful. What are your favorite tools for solving puzzles? And we did mention, oops, I clicked that off. We did mention the website, and I lost it. Here we go.
I got it.
There you go. PuzzleCachePractice.com.
Practice is always helpful. I have such a long bookmark list of like various resources that I've used over the years and stuff. If it's something that I don't recognize, or like a code type that I don't recognize or something like that, Geocaching Toolbox is always my first stop. They seem to they're kind of like, people using my book to go and place things. It seems like every time the Geocaching Toolbox puts up a new code, somebody will automatically use that code out in the field somewhere. So that's usually my first stop for anything that doesn't seem too esoteric or too out of the way. So that's another great resource. Let's actually look at the bookmark list. There's a ton of stuff out in the world. There's a bunch of these online now. They were pretty rare when I first started writing the book, but there's a bunch of them out now. But a website that will do a rot all for you instead of just rot 13. You can just drop in encoded text, and it will give you all 26 possibilities on one page to look at. Is another like great first step that I take on a lot of caches. If I see encoded information, especially if it's a low difficulty rating, just dropping it into a rot all just to see, is it just a rotation cipher? And a lot of times it is, that it's just a simple first step to take. So that's another like easy first step to take on a lot of things.
Okay.
Very cool.
Well, good deal. Cully, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We've already gone over an hour just because this is such a great topic. One more time, we see that MC3 Cats just purchased a supplement on Lulu.
Nice.
So I was going to ask you one more time, where can we find this new updated book?
The easiest place is my website, which is singleatombooks.com. It has links that will take you to Lulu from the webpage there. You can also see the other books that I've written there on an easy website. So that's the easiest way to do it. If you're interested in the path tag contest, the link to the Google form is also at that website. So that's probably the easiest and most important website to get out.
Nice. Well, thank you so much. And folks, we thank you for tuning in and listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Now, next week, that's December 19th, we are going to talk about some of the best Caching in the Northwest moments of 2019.
Yeah. And before you go on, I want to remind our listeners, send us your favorite Caching in the Northwest moments from this past year. And we want to share. In fact, what we'd love for you to do is share it with us in your own voice. But,
you can call into 253-693-TFTC any time of the day or night.
There you go. Thank you, Chris.
Also, December 26th, day after Christmas is, what is that called in Canada? Land Monkey, I've seemed to have forgotten. Oh, yeah, the day you fight about who got what gifts, the Boxing Day. And what more appropriate on Boxing Day than to talk about geocaching containers, the boxes in which we find our little treasures.
Yeah, because that's what it's all about.
Don't use your Amazon boxes as geocaching containers. Yeah.
Oh, bummer.
Probably not a good
Even
idea.
though they do sing.
Yeah, I didn't know that before. I had no idea that those mouths moved. Now I can't look at the box the same.
Yes. But do save any of the Amazon delivery drones you might capture. No, don't do that. All right. And then coming up after the first of the year, we're going to get into your goals and plans for the new year, listeners. We love hearing from you. So we'll kick off the new year with that. And then, well, we're out quite a ways. Special surprise episode coming out that. So
guess we'll just have to see what that's all about.
Yeah. January is going to be fun.
January is going to be a lot of fun. Hey, and of course, we want to take a moment before we wrap up and get into the after show to thank the Land Sharks, our corporate Denali level sponsor. Remember that Landsharks.ca is the outdoor adventure and geocaching store. Check them out online. Go in person. Visit their store in Victoria, BC. Open 6 days a week except holidays. They ship online orders daily. And you can get Cully's book there.
Yes, you can.
Nice. I know you're waiting for me, and I was doing other things.
That's okay. We're all working hard here behind the scenes.
I know.
We also want to thank our faithful Denali level supporters. Of course, Landsharks, also JP's Geo Designs, Limax, Team Squirrel, and WorldCaching.com. And if you want to know more about supporting the show, just go on to one of the sides of this website. If you're watching it on the website, if you're watching it on YouTube, that's probably not going to help you out much, but go to CachingNW.com and click that Patreon link. We appreciate the support from all of these people.
Just like B. Pendragon did.
Genies.
CRS 98,
MC3 Cats,
Sprouter.
Kennelbarb,
M Nerve,
Broncos fan for life.
Kid Vegas 19,
Keats 94,
Alarobrick.
The Wet Coaster and the Green Words,
and Boomer 365,
Seabeck Tribe.
T. Sayer,
Tick Magnet,
Dune Buddy.
GSM ×2,
Geo Nav Pros,
Subway Mark.
The Geo.
Travelers. What happened to their last
I
name?
don't know. I didn't know who this was. Is this the new patron?
Oh, the Geo Travelers. Okay, good.
Geo Travelers. Thank
Geo
you.
Travelers, Camp Clan,
Highlands Guy.
Oh, Kitty Quest. Sorry, I was still trying to figure out why that other one wasn't. The full
Trexer
name.
Zero,
Winos Seattle.
Dora Mora,
and Teus,
Kev MacD.
Billy Robson,
Ackerdock,
Sege Hove.
and Team Noltex.
Hey.
and D Trombone 15.
Ooh.
So thank you, each and every one.
Yes, we love hearing from all of you. And if anybody wants to get in touch with any of us, let's throw out some contact information. Cully, I'm going to throw it to you first. How would you like people to reach out and get in touch with you?
The easiest way is, there's a contact link at the website, singleatombooks.com, but you can also just send me an email at howtopuzzlecache@gmail.com.
Simple enough. Land Monkey.
Landmonkey.ca, and of course on the social medias at LandMonkeyGC. And hey, we just released the finale for season 3 on YouTube, so check that out. You'll get the behind the scenes, what you can do on a geocaching cruise. That's LANMONKEY on YouTube. What's
All
that,
right.
my friend? How about you?
Shoot me a message at geocaching.com, Twitter, Facebook. I'm Wits End on all of those and a few more you might find somewhere. Chris?
Anywhere you just type in Wits End and see what you come up with.
That's what my goal anyway, but yeah.
For me on Twitter and Facebook, it's Caching NW. On Instagram, I'm Caching in the Northwest. Or you know what? Better yet, head on over to CachingNW.com/hosts. There you can read those boring bios about us because we're not that exciting of people. And find all the links that we just mentioned and a few secret ones we don't tell anyone about. But most of all, we want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Don't forget that you can be part of the show, especially next week. Call into 253-693-TFTC. Leave us a comment, ask us a question, or solve a puzzle for us any time of the day or night. Of course, you can email us at feedback@cashingnw.com. Your support helps keep the quality shows coming. If you like the show, click the Patreon link on the CachingNW.com website and subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and more. Give us a thumbs up or even a review. This show's produced by Chris Umfenauer, Jim Paulwitz, and Jay Kennedy. It's licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Copyright 2019 by Chris Umfenauer. And now we ask you to stay tuned for
The After Show.
Now, Cully, I don't know if we talked to you about the after show.
I don't believe you did, but
So, surprise. Here's the after show. Here's a chance for us to talk. Maybe they are related questions of all the listeners who are joining. Maybe they're completely unrelated. They want to, tell us about something. If you have to go, we completely understand.
I'm fine. I'll probably step over and grab some water, but other than that, I'm
Okay.
fine.
Well, the first one is actually for you.
Chris, Chris, if Cully
Yep.
wants to grab some water, why don't we
Let me
let
go
him do
grab
that? And I've got something else that came into the chat that isn't in the after show that I'm gonna bring up.
Fridge is right there. 30
Okay, go.
Run, run. Okay. We've got a new listener tonight, or a new person in the chat, anyways, Heather. And she says, I'm relatively new to your podcast. Where do you guys live? So you're not going to get our home addresses, but
I'll be happy to tell you Land Monkey's home address.
hey,
It is where Land Monkey lives.
there you go. So where do you guys live?
We Wits End and I are in Tacoma, Washington.
And I am up in British Columbia in the neighboring community to where GeoWoodstock 18 is going to be. I live in Langley, right next door to Abbotsford.
Geo Travelers called it the Monkey Palace.
The Monkey Palace.
Oh.
Nice.
Lots of bananas.
Yeah.
Yes, we have the bananas today. Oh, good one. Now, what is this? Bluetooth used by thieves to break into vehicles.
So yeah, this was our chat lackey found this article.
I saw the news today. Yeah.
Yeah, so I read through that. It's from outsideonline.com. And the summary on this article is that thieves are indeed using Bluetooth apps, free downloadable Bluetooth apps on their phones that are basically doing like like you can do a Wi-Fi scan for Wi-Fi.
Right.
It's the same thing. And when some of these apps, what they're doing is not only are they giving a signal strength, so they can tell where in your car there is a device that is giving off a Bluetooth signal. They can also tell what type of device is it. So is it an iPhone? Is it an Android phone? Is it an Apple laptop with Bluetooth enabled?
Yeah.
So, and then they're basically doing a very targeted break into the car right in the corner of the car, and then just grabbing that device and being out of there in no time.
Yeah, because you think you're so smart throwing that iPad under the seat of the car. Nobody will see it there, so nobody will break in. But
Exactly. That's
they just scroll through the parking lot, find and scan, and go, oh, look, there's one in that car. In fact, it's under the left seat. Let's break in there and get it.
Yeah.
How did you know where I kept it?
So the advice is, the most simple advice is don't leave your electronics in your car, but that's not always doable.
Right.
The other advice they said is just put your electronics in airplane mode, which makes a lot of sense.
Or at least turn the Bluetooth off.
Or at least turn the Bluetooth off. Yeah.
Exactly.
Pretty
Wow.
crazy though.
That's interesting.
It's kind of like was a rash for a while of incidences in New York City of people on the subway, if they had AirDrop enabled, getting some probably not so welcome photos airdropped to them on the subway during their commute. So
like solutions to puzzle caches and things.
Exactly.
Wouldn't that be welcome? That's not.
That would be a welcome airdrop. Yeah.
No, I remember reading a story of a man. I don't know if he was on a bus or a train, but somewhere with a lot of people, and he would airdrop a picture of a monkey. So it must have been Land Monkey, and just with a complete stoic face, he could see who it was. Oh, they just got it. They're like, "What's this?"
That seems innocuous. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was just something he did to pass the time.
So
everybody needs a hobby.
Yeah. Yeah. So, turn off your services you're not using.
Yeah. So, Chris, why don't you grab IHAM's question here?
So, IHAM says, what was the group for the beta testing puzzles that Cully mentioned?
It is the Geocache Creation Lab.
I'm going to Google that.
Let me just double check that I'm right about that. It is Creation Lab, but it might be Caching Creation Lab or something like that. But
very cool. And while you're looking that up, Highlands guy thanked you again, Cully, for his new book. He said there's some great info, and he's looking forward to the supplement as well.
Thank you. Yes, it is Geocaching Puzzle Creation Lab.
Ah, there you go.
Geocaching Puzzle Creation Lab. Awesome. Here, I'll type it into the caching.
Yes, there we go. Here, I can.
Are you going to put the URL in as well?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, some of the members of that group actually beta tested the new puzzles for the updated book for me.
Oh, nice.
Wonderful.
Aren't geocachers nice people?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. Very cool.
Boy, I thought we had more for Fatas, but perhaps not. Perhaps it was all questions for Cully because he is such an interesting person to talk to.
Indeed. Lots of fun stuff. Yeah. Our chat Lackey says no more Fatas. There you go.
All right. Well, that makes the after show short, but the show itself was long, so it all works out. Cully, once again, thank you so much. And folks, until next week, get out and get puzzle caching in the Northwest.